Alrighty, y'all, what's up? Welcome back to the show. We're looking at another European car video. I did one recently. It did pretty well, and it was European cars that we did not receive here in the United States. And it was pretty interesting. Some really cool cars, some interesting kind of wacky cars. This is, on the flip side, I'm not sure if this is necessarily cars that we didn't get. It may fall under that as well, but it just says straight up 20 European cars no American would ever drive. So that's kind of a bold statement. You know, there's a lot of different people here. Some people like American, domestic cars here. A lot of people like foreign cars. I myself like anything with a wheels and engine. There's lots of European brands in cars that I do like, lots of Japanese cars, lots of American cars, you name it. So I guess I'll have to judge if these cars I would never be seen in. Let's take a look. All right, so you guys know that I am very open-minded, but you know what? I still have my own identity here. I'm still an American, right? I'm an open-minded American. I love learning about different cultures, countries, cars, you name it. A lot of stuff I end up liking, and there's some stuff I'm not a fan of. So, smart for two. This list obviously isn't stuff that necessarily we don't have in America, because we do have these. We do have smart cars here in the States. Let me tell you, they're rare. This is a car I maybe see once every couple weeks, maybe more like once a month. Not a car you see daily in traffic here. I just think most places are too big and too spread out for these. Unless you live in the heart of like downtown Chicago, downtown San Francisco, downtown New York, somewhere like that. This car might actually be good because you're on, tighter city streets, at least for U.S. standards. This car might make more sense there. I understand that this car probably makes sense in a lot of cities throughout Europe. But these things are goofy, man. They're super small. I actually have nothing against them. These are just very not American. And quite frankly, I guess in my living situation, and most Americans' living situations, this car isn't your best choice. So yeah, this is one car I wouldn't want to own, at least here. Although I have seen these engine swapped. It would be kind of cool to have a smart car with like one of those Hayabusa engines in there. I might make time to drive one of those. Whoa, what in the hell is this? A Zagato Zell 2000? Sounds like it should be a spaceship, but really it looks like a Lego car or something. It's an electric microcar with a fiberglass body that was manufactured by an Italian design company, Zagato. I feel like I've heard of Zagato even though I don't know anything about them. I don't know where I've heard that before. I'm assuming they've been associated with other cars. Yeah, I'm not sure where I would have heard that name, but I definitely have never seen this car. This is absolutely hilarious. It's kind of funky. I actually kind of like it. I like weird stuff like this. But again, I would never own this. This would be a horrible car for my environment. I would never take this on an American highway, you name it. This is pretty funny. A Renault 10. Okay, so this thing is kind of cool. I've definitely never heard of it. I've heard of the brand, of course, but I'm not familiar with the car. It's a rear-wheel drive, rear engine. So kind of like, we didn't have many of those in the U.S. Chevy Corvair comes to mind from this era. This is a smaller car, but it's not too small, right? It's just like a compact car. That's fine. I actually kind of like the styling on this. It's always interesting, the older cars. You saw this on a lot of Japanese cars as well. The mirrors mounted way up here on, towards the front of the vehicle, on the front fenders here. Kind of interesting, right? I don't mind this one. I would probably have to drive it first, but this is a car, if I wanted a fun, classic European car, I wouldn't mind one of these. All right, now here's another one that we definitely have. So let me just reiterate, this is not cars that necessarily we don't have in the U.S. It's just cars that apparently Americans would never be seen driving. So this is a CLA, Mercedes-Benz. We definitely have these. They are kind of a weird look. I have to say the proportions, there's something off about it. It's like the front overhang is like, the front comes way out, but then it's got this kind of like rear biased, like sloping roof line. I get that it's kind of different, but it kind of looks weird, right? So I'm not a fan of it compared to a lot of other Mercedes designs. So yeah, this isn't a car I would buy. It would be interesting to drive. I just feel like it's not one of the best Mercedes models. I feel like there's other ones that are better. So Fiat 500L. Now this is another car we do have in the U.S. The 500 sold, I don't know, probably, I don't have numbers. You see them in traffic here and there, so they sold a little bit. The 500L, I'd say you see less of. You would think maybe you would actually see more of them because in the U.S. we tend to love bigger vehicles, right? And this is bigger than a normal 500. But yeah, I think once you got to this size, most people just chose probably competitors to this that they were more familiar with. Maybe they liked the looks better. This is kind of a interesting, we'll call it, looking car. I don't quite think it's, very attractive looking, but yeah, this is not a car I would like to drive. I'll be honest. A Daffodil. What? I'm familiar with DAF trucks. I know they make spectacular semi trucks. I'm very interested in. I love the Euro Truck series we're doing on this channel. Those are phenomenal. I did not realize they made cars. This thing is absolutely hilarious. I actually like it. I think it's so funny. But yeah, you would be hard-pressed to find this in the U.S., although it kind of looks like it has classic California plates on here. So, I'm sure they exist, but in very low numbers. But yeah, you would not see most Americans driving this. I wouldn't want to drive it. I don't think I would fit in it. It looks pretty small. An Austin Allegro. Wow. I don't know anything about this whatsoever. It is pretty funny looking. It's got that early 80s, late 70s kind of look when, hatchbacks were really popping up left and right and getting that kind of style like this. Supposedly the steering wheel was it said like a kind of like a rounded TV screen design. So it was kind of like 4 straight lines with rounded corners. That sounds really weird. I would not like that. And I'm assuming this is really small. So, yeah, I wouldn't be seen in this, but it's interesting. It's interesting to discover. A Morris. Now, I've heard of this brand, Morris Marina. I actually believe I've heard of that name. I wouldn't have been able to recognize this car at first glance, but I've definitely heard of it somewhere. This is actually kind of cool looking. This does say, funnily enough, that this is basically a sister car to the car we just saw up here, that Austin. You wouldn't know it. It looks totally different, in my opinion. This looks a lot better, and I probably wouldn't fit well in here either. One thing that's really interesting, I guess this car didn't have too good of luck, though. A survey conducted by Auto Express in 2006 found that only 745 of these out of the over 800,000 sold in Britain were still on the road. So that comes out to fewer than 1 for every 1,000 sold, making it the most scrapped car sold in Britain over the previous 30 years. So these things were not well loved and must have not been very reliable because these were thrown away in droves. I wonder if these are worth money now. Isn't it funny how junk cars from certain eras can end up being worth some money because they were so abused and thrown away that there's barely any left? And then we have a Rover 100. This is a funny looking vehicle. I don't mind it, though. I kind of like that color. The wheels are all right. Of course, this is made by British Leyland, which I've heard a little bit about, I think, on Top Gear over the years. And people have said in comments I should check out some history of British Leyland. It's always interesting when you read a lot of these, when you read the info, a lot of these smaller cars it mentions have, diesel engine options, which I do think is super cool. Basically anything other than VW. In VW vehicles like Beetles and Jettas and, small vehicles like that, you can get diesels even in the U.S. But most brands, you just can't get diesel engines in small cars. They're usually only on bigger SUVs and trucks. So the fact that you could get small cars like this with a diesel that probably just gets astronomical mileage, fuel mileage, right? I think that's really cool, and I wish we got that in the U.S. I've always wondered why we didn't. I think it's really weird. So this one's all right. I'd have to drive it first, but I'd be open to this car. I don't know if they're good or not, but it's kind of interesting looking. We have an FSO Polonez. I probably said that wrong. This is a Polish vehicle named after the Polish dance. Oh God, I'm probably definitely saying it wrong, and this is like named after a dance. I'm so sorry. I am definitely saying that wrong. The Polonaise, I don't know. It was the only East European car built to pass the U.S. crash test, which is pretty remarkable. Yeah, because the problem is we didn't get a lot of interesting cars from around the world because we had such picky and I guess strict like crash test standards, emission standards, all these different things. So we missed out on a lot of vehicles because of stuff like that. I don't remember seeing any of these. I suppose there could be some of these in the U.S., but look, to be honest, it's kind of got that 80s funky, like cool look, but it's kind of dorky too. It's not, necessarily aggressive or cool looking, but it might be kind of an interesting car to drive. I'd be open to test driving one. A Reliant Robin. Now, these are absolutely hilarious. Of course, the only reason I know this is I believe this was on Top Gear at one point, and also, of course, one of my favorite games of all time, Beam NG Drive, has a car like this in the game, and it's pretty fun and hysterical to drive. So, yeah, you would never see this in America. Most Americans would laugh at this thing and wonder what it was. Of course, I would love to see one in person. I think it'd be pretty funny, but yeah, I would never have one of these. Then we have a Rover 800. Now, this is kind of cool. This looks like a bigger car. I don't know if this is like rear-wheel drive. Maybe it's front-wheel drive. I'm not sure. But this is an okay-looking car from that era. And I would definitely drive one of these. Maybe it's a good car. Maybe it's not a good car. But looks-wise, I kind of dig it. I like it. Then we have a Citroen C3 Pluriel. I'm probably saying that wrong as well. I do apologize. Now, this thing is cool. Citroen always makes weird stuff. Even their modern stuff is weird. Their old stuff is incredible. I have still much to learn about the older Citroen models. I absolutely love what I've discovered from them. Very fascinating car company. This is definitely weird, but I like it. The way, what's supposedly be the A pillar and I guess the B, there's no B pillar, so I guess the A and C pillars as one here with like, it looks like the roof is missing, unless that's an optical illusion. It almost looks like it, it makes it look like it's roll bars. It's kind of interesting look, right, with the silver against the green. Kind of a weird car, but I dig it. Citroen has a way of pulling off weird vehicles. And this is no exception. I kind of like it. Then we have a Triumph TR7. Now, these I do see at a lot of car shows. You'll see them, in people's garages, here and there. These do have a presence in the U.S., and I actually kind of like these. I would like to drive one. I would like to see if I fit in one. I think it'd be a fun, spirited car to drive. And, I wouldn't have a problem with one of these. They make excellent motorcycles, too. DeLorean DMC-12. Why is this on the list? There is literally a place half an hour from me in Elgin, Illinois. I believe it's in Elgin, where it's like a DeLorean dealer. They have so many parts for these still that they can basically manufacture in whatever, like 82 DeLorean, but it's brand new. Like, if that makes sense, right? And yeah, these have a huge following in the U.S. I think they have a dealer like that in Illinois. I think they have a dealer like that in Texas. I could be wrong, in Florida somewhere. There's multiple ones. Of course, these were famous in media. Back to the Future was my favorite movie series of all time. And, obviously was very big in the U.S. I don't know why this is on the list. But then we have a Rover 25. Now, this is a dorky looking car. I know hatchbacks are, really big in Europe, very popular. Of course, we do have tons of hatchbacks here in the U.S. as well, but they are different style, I'll admit. This is kind of bubbly, like tall and not a very long car, so the proportions are a little weird. Not my style of hatchback, so yeah, I'd have to pass on that one. I'm not a fan. Then we have the Jag S-Type. Now, we did get, of course, we still get Jaguars here, even in this era. This looks to be early thousands. Now, I do like some Jag models, but this particular one, and honestly, this whole era, I'm not a fan of. Then we have a Hillman Imp. What in the world is that? I guess it was a small economy car built by the Roots Group in their successor Chrysler Europe. Wow, okay. Well, I'm a big Mopar and Chrysler fan, but I'm not too aware of what their, international divisions and enterprises were. So I wouldn't know much about Chrysler Europe, only, of course, their presence here in the U.S. But this is definitely a funny car. Not a fan of this one. Yeah, I don't think this would be too popular here. Alfa Romeo Arna. Now, this thing is cool. I like Alfa Romeos for the most part. Usually, this design is kind of like simple, and sometimes when things are simple, I actually like that. I like simple designs when they work. This one works for me. It's not strikingly, aggressive or exotic. It's not probably very fast or anything, but it looks like a fun car to just, it would have been a good daily driver, I would think. Then we have finally number 1, a Rover City Rover. So kind of weird name going on there, a Rover City Rover. Again, it's that bubbly, really small, like cheap looking hatchback. And I get that it's economical and makes sense. It's probably easy to maintain and really good on fuel. But yeah, this would not be popular in the U.S. I guess we like our big vehicles too much. So yeah, that's going to do it for this one, guys. What did you think of that list? Did you have any of those? Or do you love or hate any of those vehicles we saw on that list? If you've gotten to travel between Europe and America, did you see the difference in, the average cars and trucks on the street? I'm sure you did. I think it's fun that they're a lot different, and that's why I have this series. I like learning about cars and vehicles from around the world because they're all so different and unique. That list was hit or miss. There were a lot that I definitely wouldn't drive and probably a lot of Americans wouldn't like, but then there were some on there that were pretty cool and that, quite frankly, you do see here in decent numbers on the streets. But yeah, let me know what you think down below. Please throw a thumbs up on there if you enjoyed this. Subscribe to be part of this amazing community we do have here. And keep up your awesome suggestions and video ideas. With that being said, y'all, my name is Ian. You're watching IWrocker. And until next time, y'all, I'll catch you later.